Okay, I know, I'm not the best at recording. And I can't blame anybody else but myself. I'm the problem. But I'm also the art. I've been using Zencaster to record since the podcast started some 3 years ago. And it's just so wild to me that they just keep getting better and better because Zencaster is now an all in one solution, making podcasting so much easier. If you want to do video, they got you. If you want to just stick to the old school audio, that's cool too. They got you. I love Zencaster. It really does allow me to record anywhere that I am at, and I'm always moving. I can't sit still. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. If you're interested in trying Zencaster, please use the code BEX14 and you can get your voice heard. Hola, bienvenidos, welcome to Tu Tía Bruja. What's up? I'm Bex Carlos, and I would like to say that the ending of the Venus retrograde made me come out like a beautiful butterfly. But I'm still a sloshy caterpillar in my cocoon. I think the Venus retrograde made me personally aware of a lot of wounds associated with relationships, associated with how I show up, associated with things I need to work on. It's interesting because this Venus retrograde that just ended had a lot of parallels to that of about June 2015 to October of 2015. So if you've been going through it, maybe it feels like a part 2 of everything that happened then. Maybe this episode will be a good listen for you. I chat with Nyx Morgia, who you may know as Spiritual Haunt Girl or Haunt Girl Nyx. She's been on the show before. She's amazing. She's a friend of the show. And if you aren't familiar with her rebrand, if you haven't been catching up with her, please, I highly suggest, if you want to become a member of my Patreon and you need a sign, the last episode we did together is on there. We touch a little bit on it in this conversation, but the thing that her and I discuss is love magic, because I have been a little bit of a snob, for lack of a better term, for a long time. And I would get on my high horse and be like, ugh, love magic. It's like bending someone's force of will. Ugh, all magic is bending people's force of will or changing the situation that you are in through positive affirmations, through wishful thinking, through magic, through prayer, whatever you want to call it. So I don't need to be on my high horse. And also, I think that Amares are for the every woman, they are for the women who need to have a man to support them. These expectations of like society or what we have to deal with in relationships, these power dynamics, they exist for a reason. This conversation is also about loving yourself and the hard reality that it is to be Mexican American and to not be accepted by one group of people and not to be accepted by another group of people. Ugh, and that is one of the wounds that I've really been digging through, and I'm going to stop talking. Let's jump into the episode and then we will chat at the end. I know I'm always just like, I had to press play, but this is when I had to press play because I feel like I could just talk to this girl all night. I'm so excited to reintroduce, because if you listen to the back end catalog, you can hear our episode from before, but I feel like now we've come a long way. We've been doing a lot of stuff, and respectively, like, I'm just really glad to have you on, Nyx, because I feel like since the last time we recorded, we've become much closer friends. Thank you again.
Yes, I'm excited. I like heard your voice and I was automatically like calmed and soothed.
It's funny to me that people feel that way about my voice. I was always that kid that just like talked too much. So I feel like so many people in my immediate circle are just like, shut up,
Yeah.
First of all, I saw that you're doing like a bunch of car shows and stuff. Like, oh my God, love it. The inner chola is definitely, my dad was a big lowrider guy.
Yes, I love that.
I don't go to like events and stuff like that, but I can tell you this. When my dad met my best friend's stepfather, they immediately bonded over cars because he was driving an Impala and my dad's like, is that a 66 67 and he's like a 69. And he's like, okay. Even to be that close is so impressive. But some of those cars, mwah, total beauty.
Oh my God. You're like doing your witchy thing right now because my grandpa's car was a 67 Impala. That's how I got into
Oh,
all of this.
yeah.
My grandpa was very into old school cars.
Which was the family member that migrated to the US?
My grandparents and my great grandparents on the other side, like we have like four generations here. So I do tend to bond closer to like Chicano culture. Not to say I can't like get down with like what I would call like more, Mexico culture, but I do very much know more just from my grandparents.
The reason that I'm mentioning this is because my dad was born in 52. So I don't know when your grandparents, because I feel like my parents are always so much older than everyone else around me's parents.
I think so. I think that they'd be the same age if my grandfather was still alive because my grandfather had my mom at 18 and my mom had me at 17. So he was honestly, a lot of times I feel like he was more my father. My mom and I basically grew up together, kind of thing. That's how it feels a lot of times when I look back.
Did you relate to Gilmore Girls?
I've never seen Gilmore Girls. Yeah, all my friends tell me about like, okay, Friends and Gilmore Girls. Like my friends talk about them, and I'm just like, you guys, I've never seen Friends, Gilmore Girls. I've also never read a Harry Potter book in my life. Like I just feel ashamed sometimes.
You know what? She turned out to be super duper problematic, so it's probably for the best that you skipped Harry Potter. I can't say I didn't love it as a kid, but I'm like, you could do without.
I always have been like a reader though, like, but I've always read stuff that probably was way more mature for my age.
You were the smut queen.
I was reading like VC Andrews. I don't know if you know that author, but I was reading her at like 10. Flowers in the Attic. I was like 10 reading her books.
I did not see that movie when I was a kid or read that book, but I feel like some of the stuff that I was exposed to as a kid, I was just like, girl, what? Because of that, I'm like, my sexual awakening was visual.
Me too. Oh my God, me too. Even like if I do like love spells and stuff, like I feel very connected to it, even though like I don't care for, like I don't care for like for myself. I don't do a lot of love rituals, but I'm like very in touch with that visual, like sexualized dominant side. I don't know. It's crazy, but I love smut. I live for it.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so that brings up a good point because something I wanted to talk to you about was love magic. Honestly, I find myself to be skilled in a lot of different areas, but like love is not always the one. Maybe it's because, I really do feel like all witches have their own set of skills. And I'm like, with you and your sprays and just all the different things that you make specifically for love, I'm like, that's something this bitch knows.
Yeah, I really have like grown in that area and a lot of it to be honest with you, like I feel like is driven from like my my growth and like
Hmm.
accepting that like sexual side of myself. I don't know why. It seems to manifest out that I'm really good at those things, but it's weird because it's not really, to be honest with you, I'm not a romantic person. Even like if I'm reading stuff, it has to be very dark romance and smut. I'm a very sexual person, but I wouldn't say I'm like into the idea of like Prince Charming coming, to be honest with you. And it's weird because I've been with my husband since I was 17, so I've never had to look for love. I will say as a little girl though, like the little girl off Practical Magic, like that was me. I was always like dreaming of my husband, so it's weird to some degree. I feel like that was a love spell in itself because he showed up. Always, even looking back, been like, I wanted him so bad, he just showed up.
I feel like you can find love at any age. And for some people, it takes getting to know themselves. I think that's amazing that in some ways, like you found this person that's been able to grow and live with you through all of this. Because I would say that that's like the truest love is someone who is willing to grow and change along the path. The idea that this perfect person comes and then like everything is like amazing is very misleading.
Oh fuck yeah. Oh, 100%. There were seasons in my marriage where I hated him. Like I just did not like him, but I respect the fact that he let me grow and be the person I wanted to be. And I allowed that for him as well. Otherwise, I would have honestly, I feel like I would have been divorced like years ago.
And that's the thing with like relationships. Like you have to figure out where the line is where you're not willing to compromise anymore.
You know what? I'm going to be really honest with you too. And I've had this conversation with my husband. Even to this day, I think that a lot of people get married young and they get married for the wrong reasons, or even not even young, but in still an immature state of mind. And they I feel like they grow and the other person only loves them conditionally for where they were at, but doesn't allow them to grow. And that's why you see a lot of relationships. I mean, I have tons of clients, to be honest with you, that are in affairs or I hide a lot of affairs. Like I'm not, um, but I have understood it from the sense that they're just unhappy and now they're stuck somewhere. And as I was just having this conversation with a friend. As Hispanic women, a lot of women are stuck and trapped in marriages that are sexless, unfulfilled. Like it's just, I see it so much, and it's sad because we have this idea like, oh, if we've been together for this long, in our culture especially, like, oh, we've been together for 25 years, and it's like, okay, but I've seen people that have been together 2 years love each other, to the same extent and maybe even more.
The sense of pride sometimes in Mexican marriages where they just like they can't end it. Like they don't know when enough is enough. And that makes me really sad for so many people.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we as women too have the luxury that we don't need men to like open bank accounts for us and shit. So it's like what we are willing to tolerate is not what like our mothers or grandmothers or anybody before had to tolerate.
Yes, and then it like is like flip side now because now it's like I have sons and like now we're at a place where it's like how do we balance the two like masculine and feminine energy, because I think a lot of us, especially if we saw those, like, where our fathers were, like a little bit more, like for my grandpa was very machismo, like that was him. He was never like that with his daughters or his granddaughters, but just seeing it, I think it created very assertive women where I'm like, the fuck you're gonna tell me to do that? And then it's just been a whole cycle of trying to find that balance with that.
That is such a good point that you make because either your grandfathers or sometimes fathers, the relationship that you can have, like because, oh, this person, this male figure in my life has taught me to be strong is so powerful. And like that's cool that your grandfather in a lot of ways like helped create that environment. That is powerful for like men to advocate, to teach their daughters to advocate for themselves. You know what I mean? Like nobody else is gonna do it for us, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it was like one of those scenes where I feel like even though like he taught us on both ends, like he taught us to be assertive, but then it did go back to where it's like, but we saw the way he was treating my grandmother, very jealous, she couldn't wear revealing clothing. It was crazy, some of the shit, but I do always like keep that into consideration because I deal heavily with I have a lot of my clients that have to pretend like I am somebody else when I go to their home, or if they're talking to me on the phone, like my husband can't know that I'm working with a bruja to do an amare, like to heal myself.
That makes sense because it is still like hush hush. You know what's funny? Amares, I used to be very critical about. Honestly, I will be honest, a lot of like love magic felt it's like, someone's force of will. And it's interesting that you haven't seen Harry Potter because there is this example of I guess you would call it like an amare of sorts because she essentially puts this man through like a tunnel vision scenario. We're going to be together. And he basically is like going through this trance and has like a whole ass child. They're together. And then one day he like wakes up and he's just like, what the fuck? And he just like leaves. I never agreed to that. And so, like, in some ways, a lot of love magic just comes off so toxic. But I'm like, all magic is about bending other people's will. It is about impacting free will.
It is.
So it's like to get on a high horse and be like, well, this one's different than this one. It's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Like,
Amares are so hard because there does oftentimes, I feel like if it's too forced, that you will see things have to fall apart. I mean, that's with all magic, but I do feel like I've had to tell people a few times when I didn't want to. Like, it's not that I don't believe the magic will work. It's just, are you willing to sacrifice your time to chase this person, to wait for something to happen in 10 years, or and sometimes I even see things like where I had a girl, a year had passed and then she messaged me and said, "Okay, it just started taking off." And so it just depends on the situation. That's why for me consults are super important. If I do any candle magic, 100%, like we have to sit down and do a consult where I read your cards and I let you know, like, right there what the hell we're working with. Like, this person doesn't love you. And I always say that to them. I'm like, I'm going to be real with you. This person doesn't love you. We will be forcing them. If the feelings are there and I see it in the cards, I feel, more confident about it. But I think that it's, as a bruja, we have to be truthful, as well. So to me, it's like I've never really worried too much about the forcing, because I've always told them from the get-go, like, hey, they they actually don't love you. We will be forcing them. Do you want to force them?
So I'm glad that you are mentioning this because I feel like one, a lot of people don't realize that they should do divination before they do some intense like spell work. But secondly, I do like that a lot of people do have a little bit of a conscience about magic because Berto, Berto, I just came back from staying with him in Denver, and that was something we were talking about. He's the one who told me this, so credit to him. Mexican magic, you don't have boundaries, you just do it. If you're a bruja, you just do it. And I like, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm practicing on my own terms. I don't know. I like being able to also be like, I will do this or I won't do that. And I will, like
Yep.
deciding what feels right to me. Because everyone's practice is different too.
It is, yeah. Even like for myself, there's times where like maybe my cards are like, take the higher road. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, fuck this person. I'm going to hex them. And I know that's horrible to say, but I do like being able, like you said, being able to choose, like, I am going to do this or I'm not going to do it.
At the end of the day, like we decide this is worth spending the energy on or this isn't. Everyone goes through petty shit. So I'm also just, I try to be like less critical about why people do their magic.
Yeah.
One thing that I've realized, right, is like my judgment of Gamares, because I feel like I've gone through this whole moment of decolonizing my practice. To be so judgmental is to really not stand for the every woman. Because I could see and understand why someone like in a pueblo doesn't have a whole lot of resources. They feel like their looks and their like sex appeal have to lock in this man to be set. Like, get that bag, girl. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you gotta force it because you gotta survive.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, but I also, one thing I've had to understand, because I feel like you and I have similar personalities, I've had to have years worth of just coming to terms with doing love magic. Because to be honest with you, I was good at it, but it would always kind of like tick me off because I was like you, I'm like, you could do this, girl, you could do this. Like, fuck this guy. Like, he's not your worth. But then I have to step back and be like, you know what? In this world, there are three themes. The most popular candles that will go is love, is money, and protection. So people want to be loved, they want money, and they want to be protected. So it is likely that some people confuse the money and the protection with the love, or it's like their value on love just might be higher than my value on, love, but my value on money might be too much for their value on love. And then some people, they value more protection. So it's more me seeing like what a person values and trying to respect them there, because for so long I was just like, why do you want to do this? Let's do a money candle. Let's do this. And it wasn't until I was like, I don't know their traumas. I don't know their past. I don't know what makes them desire love so much. But there are things in my life that I desire that probably seems stupid to somebody else.
That's very true. And I'm honestly like on the just the school of thought at this point where I'm just like, do what makes you happy. If like being in love and having
Hmm.
this person love you and having their gratification at the end of the day like is what you need, then do it.
Yeah.
For me, that's not me. I'm over here probably spending too much traveling, and I'm just like, ah,
Good for you though. I'm excited for you with traveling because I'm the same way. I'm like, I'm going to travel. I want to live. Like I said, I don't know. We touched a little bit on this maybe before we started, but like it's been a really big year for me to understand my identity and who I am and who I am not as a witch. Does that sound crazy? Like, who am I not as a bruja?
no, I think it is important to separate the two because if not, it comes from a sense of needing power all the time.
To me, it feels like social media wants you to have like a niche kind of, and then that becomes the only way people identify you. That's why I've kind of, even though my pages got taken down, people can go listen to that on, is it on your Patreon?
Yeah.
I won't go too into that, but they can go listen if they want. But I think that one, I'm kind of glad that happened because I just feel like I was trapped into a box of what I could do and what I was able to do and that I have to. That is honestly why I even did this car show too. Like, completely stopped doing metaphysical bazaars and events. This was the year that I said I will not do that anymore. And primarily because it would make me feel like my identity was only that. I was only around people doing that, which at the beginning of my journey was necessary. And I appreciate that community. But I didn't want that to only be my only identity. Like, that my only identity was the Mexican witch at the pop up events here in Idaho. So it just was something that I needed to move away from. And this car show was like a really good entrance into connecting with more people in my community that needed my help, not just knew everything already. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, for sure, dude. And I'm really glad that you're doing that, that you're now seeking out more events where you can be seen in other communities. Because here's the thing, like going to a car show, not everyone might want a reading or, an esoteric product, but someone might. And that person might have not been able to have found you if you were only in witchy spaces. I think there comes a time where if we're trying to do work but actually go be in service in the community, we have to go seek community.
Yes, yes, and also having to be vulnerable. And I really saw that, like, because like you said, not a lot of people, it's very weird in our community. Like, people look at this stuff and they're like, what in the hell is that? Like, that's the devil. But then there's some people, and this is the audience that I showed up for, that are curious, that they want to know, and that they were looking for something like that. So
Mhm.
in a space that's not a whole, because I go to a witchy place or I go to like horror con and everybody's down. They're like, hell yeah, we love this stuff. But you're going to a car show where it's just very 50-50. And there had to be a lot of like conversations I had to have with myself that said, you might get weird looks, you might get dirty looks, you might get, the follow Jesus comment or something. You know what I mean? Like, and it's hard because I'm a Catholic practicing witch, but people don't understand. That's still a concept that just doesn't click. They just see bruja and they're done.
But did you have some really amazing experiences that made it worthwhile and you were just like, "Yes, like I have to keep coming back."
Yeah, I did, honestly. I had, and a lot of them were younger girls that were just like asking me questions about candles. And I really, really enjoyed that. And then I had a lot of people come up to me. Even one guy, he came up and we like had a whole conversation. I was selling Laura's book as well. So that came in handy. Like, I was able to be like, listen, like, I can only explain so much, but I want you to read this book. And then let me know what you think about it, like, because this is going to open up. It just feels good when you have those experiences, because think of like our journey, because I feel like as young, like, well, we're not old, but we're like older adult
Yeah.
Chicana women. I don't think we had that path paved for us. We had to do some weird crap. Like, I don't know about you, but I was like doing some weird shit that just didn't even align with me. But I was trying so hard to get away from
Yeah.
the religious-y stuff. And so I didn't have nobody to mentor me. And I feel like that is my biggest goal, is creating a safe place for young Chicana women to connect with themselves spiritually and find their own path. It doesn't necessarily have to mirror my path, but a path where they can be confident and happy and not feel like they're forced to go into an organized religion that I've been in, and it was not suitable for me, I don't think.
Yeah, and being in your teens is fucking tough. Like I feel like I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm still really going through the process now of having a safe space where I am able to process and deconstruct some of the like stuff and I'm like that was fucked up, like because I'm an adult now. I'm so like far disconnected from those experiences and those people and it's just like, whoa, life is so weird. But I really would love for the next generation to feel more secure in self and advocate for themselves. So I feel like, yeah, it's amazing that now there's so many different resources. Something you touched on, like having a safe space. Like I know I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there are these women who do hikes. It's like we're going to cleanse ourselves, we're going to like meditate, we're going to hike. Because the thing is like our ancestors used to be so connected to the land. And I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel very disconnected
Yeah.
from the land that I live in. And I'm like, I don't know if it's just, it doesn't feel known to me because when I'm in Mexico, I feel very differently.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, so it's not, it's maybe it's ancestral familiarity. I don't know, but like something just makes me feel connected. But my mom said something to me the other day. She was just like, "La tierra se ve triste," and it's the truth. Like the land and just the way that everything feels around me. I'm like, it just feels so sad.
It does. Yeah. I feel that. Like, I I like to be out and like Nate. It's funny you say that because I've been like trying to like get my exercise from like being outdoors. And every time I'm outdoors, I do connect more, but not the way I do in Mexico. Like, we're from a little ranchito. And so when you see like the houses there, they're not like, they don't look like the houses here. And for some weird reason, it gives me comfort. I don't know why. I don't know. It's like a weird feeling because it's like, this is like where my roots are at. I don't know if it's that. I don't know what it is, but something about being just in Mexico. And because I haven't gone for 5 years, we're getting ready to go. It's like every time, like I even like anticipating it right now, like my heart feels fuller. Like I feel like I know, like just when I touch down and my feet are on the ground there, like that I'm just going to feel alive.
I'm so excited for you.
Have you ever had a pajarete?
Yes, I have.
I'm like trying to get to the rancho so I can have a pajarete. Like, and you know how you like, it's like a Mexican mimosa. Like, you go drink a pajarete and you're just fucked up the rest of the day.
Yes. Okay, if people don't know what a pajarete is, can you explain it to them?
Yes. So, from what I understand, so it's cow's milk, but you put a little bit of chocolate in there and like some really cheap ass vodka. And where we're from, a lot of like people, I don't know about you, but I see a lot of people like just going to the rancho and they're like borrachos. Like, but it's so weird the culture in Mexico. Like, they're literally just there for the pajarete. They're not even helping or anything. But when we go to that, we go with my husband's side of the family. None of his deals ever say anything to the like borrachos that go. They're just like, whatever. And they've even told them, they're like, they're gonna be, if they want to get drunk, it's whatever. Like, we'll give them some cow's milk, and sometimes they'll help a little bit, so it's worth it. But it's milk mixed with liquor. It's like almost like that tequila rose that I don't know if you ever tried that, but that curdles my stomach.
I think it's too sweet. Yeah, dude. Okay, so they make them with vodka. I think I've also seen them done with tequila, which makes sense because my family's from tequila, but
Yeah.
do they catch them on fire when they make them?
I've never seen that.
Okay. I don't know if that's done as like a precaution to like kill any potential bacteria.
Probably that's how it's supposed to be, and I'm probably why I get sick like the first few days.
Well, we're not accustomed to drinking milk like that anyway.
Mm-mm, no.
We're also Americans, so like our tummies.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Yeah. Like usually one will get me fucked up and then my stomach is, but you know what? Every time I go, my American stomach like does me dirty and I'm like it takes like a few days before I like adjust a little bit as long as I don't drink the water. And but I will have a pajarete, but I think you're right. I think maybe they're supposed to like put fire to it. I don't know. They've never, I know for sure that they've never done that for me, but maybe they're supposed to.
My uncle does because he has a place where they do it. Because sometimes like they'll do cow milk, but they'll also do like chivo, so like a goat.
Yes, yeah.
And it really just depends on preference because some people like one and some people like the other. But so I don't know if I told you this. I think I did. I think one time we were joking around about this. I was like, oh my God, like a pajarete almost killed my ex.
No, you didn't tell me
Okay,
this?
I could have sworn we DM'd about this like forever back. Like I think it was when it happened. So my ex was already very dehydrated. Like we had gone to like the Fortaleza distillery, so we ended up doing close to 20 shots. I don't know how we survived that, but we did. And then okay, even worse, it was vigilia, so we couldn't have menudo the next day, so that was rough. But we did that. And then the next day My mom was like, oh, aquí va bueno a los pajaretes. So we took him to the pajaretes and he had one. He was like, okay, I'm down. And imagine how dehydrated he was. And then he had that. It was too much for him. Like he ended up getting really sick. When we were flying back, his joints and everything were like locking up from how dehydrated he was. And I was like, oh my God. So we spent this is terrible. We spent the whole layover. He had a smart water and he had like a Powerade and he was just like drinking both. And then when he ran out, when he was done with those, we got him two more. And like, oh my God, can you imagine death by pajarete?
It wasn't at that point that you're like, this relationship isn't going to work.
He needed to hydrate more. He was like my test subject, right? Because I got some white friends, and I'm going to have to look out for them and be like, drink
Yeah.
the liquid IV, drink the hydration stuff.
Oh my, you know what's funny? I have to do that too,
Yeah,
like before I go. Like, and even like when my mother-in-law's gone with us, like her and I are like chugging water because we're like, we're not trying to get like a yeast infection from like dehydration. So sorry.
that's the thing though, like going to Mexico really does, especially because we're used to living here now. It really does take like a whole readjustment period, even before you go. And once you're there, like you got to just keep up with it.
Also that culture shock, and there's that like, I don't know if you get this, but like I come back and I just am like, and I've seen like my husband do it. It's just like this really like overwhelming sadness because the same way that we get on the ground and we feel happy and like at home, then coming back makes it feel like we're not at home, and that's sad to me.
Yes, there is this almost like my Mexican level depletes, because I guess here, I don't know if you feel this, like
Hmm.
sometimes I feel like I have to prove how Mexican I am.
Yes.
And there, I'm just living my Mexican experience. Like, I'm gonna go drink an agua fresca. Maybe later, if I can get some elote, I'm gonna have that. It's just, I can go do it.
Oh my God, caña. Have you ever had caña?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm obsessed with that, but I get exactly what you're saying. When you're over there, it's like you're not, you just are Mexican and they know. And over here, you're right. I get that a lot. And I don't know if it's because maybe we're from the same region, because we're from Jalisco. I don't feel like I'm too light, but I do always feel like I have to. I think I talked about this in the other podcast. If I haven't, my mom remarried a white man. So my siblings, like my sister has green eyes. But the funny thing is the green eyes I feel like come from actually the Mexican side, not her white dad's side. So my thing has I feel like my whole life I've had to be like, I'm Mexican. I am Mexican. And now I feel like because of TikTok and social media, like you seem to see that like that's a similar experience with all Mexican American people. Like it's crazy to me. I was thinking of this the other day. Like Selena did not speak Spanish. She didn't speak Spanish. Richie Valens, like these big, stars that are considered, a part of the Mexican American experience, neither of them spoke Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the having to prove who you are is just exhausting here. And over there, it's like they don't give a fuck. Like even my kids, like, they're like my oldest, I would say he's like more like no sabo, but they don't fucking care. They're like, you're my blood, you're my family. Like, then mijo, like they'll talk to him in Spanish. They don't give a shit. His cousins use like Google Translate before. And to me, that's beautiful because it's like language is not culture at the end of the day. And even for those of us that can speak, but we maybe like feel very, when I'm here and I have to speak to somebody in Spanish, my anxiety goes through the roof because I don't want to get made fun of. Does that make sense? Like,
Yes, I relate. Yeah.
but when I'm there, it's like I don't have no options. I don't have that little voice telling me that I'm going to get made fun of because they don't give a shit. Like, your family wants to talk to you. And even people in the ranchos, like, you're buying like pepinos and whatever in the plaza, they do not give a shit how you pronounce anything. And I feel like I'm more confident so I don't make those mistakes that I make here.
Because you have no other choice. Every once in a while, though, I do. Okay, so one time, my dad and I, we were walking around, we were trying to get like the refill. Because sometimes, fun fact, in case you didn't know this, if you need to get a medicine refilled in Mexico and the pharmacies don't have it, you can always go to a hospital because the hospital pharmacy is going to be more stocked. And as long as you have the prescription. You're golden. But we went and I was talking to the security guard and I was like, excuse me, sir, I wanted to know if it was possible that if we could go in and potentially talk to someone in the pharmacy about getting this refilled because we've gone to all these like pharmacies and like nobody has it. And he was just like, he just started laughing at me and he was just like, tu español está muy bueno. Sí, pásate. And my dad, you could just hear him behind me just burst out laughing. And he's like, yo te entiendo, Rebequita. And I'm like, oh my God, shut up.
Dude, I was helping a guy over here, like in the States, like he couldn't translate to the person. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, you know Spanish, you better fucking. This man asked me what mission I went on. Like he thought I was like a missionary that learned Spanish. I was like, I hate me today. I was too embarrassed to be like, nope, I didn't do any mission work. This is just my fucked up Spanish.
Dude, do you feel like your voice in Spanish sounds more like childish compared to like your English voice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and a part of me, like, feels childish. I think that's where the anxiety comes from because I don't wanna sound childish because I have to for my husband's, like, first generation here, but he was born here. So he, like, tells I asked him one time, I'm like, "Do you think in English or Spanish?" And he's like, "The majority of the time, I think in English." So I'm like, "Okay, so, like, so when we go to speak Spanish, like, we have to actually think it out and the thought process is there because we don't want to, you know what I mean? Like we don't want to sound stupid. So we have to overly think about it, which is where the anxiety comes from. And then the voice, the child, I think that's where the childhood voice comes from. Or like an alter ego because to be honest, I feel like to like blend in, I sound like a Theo. Like I just start using pinchy like every other syllable. I use like a shit ton of slang for one, because I was around it a lot. And then two, because it's the only way I can calm some of my nerves if I'm just like, no mames, güey, ¿por qué estás haciendo eso? Like, it just makes me feel like a little bit more in control of how the conversation's gonna go. And then, dude, when I'm drunk and like high in Mexico, I like straight up tell my cousins, I'm like, ya no puedo hablar español. So y'all better get the fucking Google Translate out because I'm so fucked up. This ain't gonna work. And thankfully I have like a few like family members that can like translate or like that have come over here for a little bit. Over there it's weird. Like they know more like English than we know Spanish. I feel like it's weird. You know what? I want to tell you this crazy story when I was working at a restaurant and it was like in the summer and I was like, ah, estoy bien caliente. Like these guys were laughing so hard because you would think caliente, hot, like I had no idea that I was telling everybody I was horny. It's a little bit more complicated when you're not like used to it that you're like, oh, I can't say caliente for like how I feel. I can say if something else is hot, but I can't say I'm hot.
I gotta be honest because like the only reason that my Spanish is like subpar at best, like I spoke it with my parents, but it was my minor in college.
Somewhere in like my junior year needed a class in high school and I was like, I'll just do Spanish and I was going to do like level 1. But then like I don't know how, like it got too boring that I was just like, listen, I need to take a test. That year I did Spanish 5. I started taking like AP courses my senior year, graduated with honors and then did a little bit more. That's the only reason why I feel like my Spanish got better or else it would be a lot worse.
That's the cool thing about like if we want to reconnect with the language, we can, you know,
Yeah.
because we were fortunate enough to learn most of the basics before we were 8. Sometimes I feel like I need to just because certain words I'm like, I feel like I would need to take like a business class in Spanish. I'm like, what is the word for this? What is the word for that, you know?
One thing that helped me too, like when I was younger, believe it or not, was like, and I keep telling my husband this with the kids because they're kind of like lagging in there. I'm like, they'll reconnect. Like it's in their brain, like everything we could get them to know, and they'll do just like us and they'll reconnect. But a lot of it is one, taking them to Mexico, making sure they're connected to their culture, picking up on it. Cause I feel like even just being around it has helped us to some degree, you know, like for someone like you and I. But then the school part is nice because they teach you like the proper way to like conjugate. I'm a visual learner, so when I see it and then I also hear somebody saying it, it makes it easier for me to like pick up. And then it's almost like the puzzle, it started off as a puzzle with a few pieces, but once you get your kids like back into their culture, they're taking these classes and you're actively helping them to utilize it more, it will all the whole puzzle will come together. That's how I feel with it. And then their spiritual practices are like another puzzle piece that I feel like they'll have to put together themselves on how they reconnect with their land too.
And I want to, stress the fact that, like you said this earlier, you don't need to speak the language, and I think that that's one of those things that
Mhm.
sometimes we feel we have a sense of responsibility to speak it, but we also like don't have to. Like we are enough just the way that we are.
Yes.
I will say that I do appreciate knowing the language because it has allowed me to like reconnect. Do you read in Spanish?
No, I read one book called Metafísica and it was super complicated. So no, I do not.
Honestly, I can read in Spanish, but it takes a lot of focus. And I gotta be honest, like, I have trouble focusing on a book already. So, like, what should take a normal amount, I'm just like, I gotta really, like, look at it.
I have a hard time reading it too, but because I'm so visual, like I think that you know what helps me is like novelas. Like I don't know why, but like watching novelas, which is probably not a good thing because a lot of like the dramatic flair and probably a lot of my slang comes from like watching novelas. I like even since as I was a child, I watched like the expressions because we're very expressive, I feel like as Mexican people like we're very expressive.
Mhm.
I would like watch not only how they were saying things, but like how they were expressing it facially. And I think that helps like when I'm speaking the language as well. Does that happen for you as well?
Yeah, I will say something I do like about like watching novelas or even just like movies in Spanish is like doing the subtitles because it does help strengthen my ability to read it, but also just like the visual aspect of all the expressions and just like the dramatics. Like it really, I don't know, it all really helps lock it in my brain better.
Sometimes I do that too, where I just have like the subtitles on or whatever. But I do need to start reading it because you're right. If I read something I already know, like I already know the concept, but now I'm adding the concept in Spanish. So that's not a bad idea either.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like, I could seriously talk to you forever. You bring so much personality to everything you do, and I hope you realize that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that because I love this community. But like as far as like supporters, I have like few, and I know that you're one of them. So I really appreciate that, and I love your podcast, and I think that you're gonna go a lot bigger than you were. I think that like young girls are like looking up to you as well because even before I even like met you through Instagram, I would literally look up the word bruja on podcasts because I wanted to connect to something like that was me. Or how do I explain it? Like that was me, but like not something else. Like I want to be called a bruja, but I'm not going to speak in Spanish. So like some of the ones I would look up were bruja, but they were in Spanish and I couldn't understand or I felt like I wasn't going to be able to understand. But yours was like perfect. It was like, it really is my tia bruja. Like she's a bruja and she's going to talk about things that I can relate to in a language that I am more familiar with. And sometimes, I've seen you like cross over and speak in Spanish if you need to. So I just feel like you're doing basically the same thing as me without realizing it, that there's girls that are going to be looking up bruja and looking for guidance as well.
Thank you. I really claim and love that energy. Thank you. Nix, this has been such an amazing conversation. Where can people keep up with you? All the stuff you're doing, buy your stuff. Please, where do you want people to find you?
At Spiritual Haunt Girl. So that's my Instagram. That's also my TikTok. And then you see me a lot more on my personal one because I just feel more comfortable there. But my Haunt Girl Nick, I do try to keep everyone updated like on any other events that come up. I try to be persistent with that.
Yes, and I will put all of the links to your stuff in the show notes so people can just click and find you. Thank you again for sharing this space with me, friend. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Nyx. Please find all the ways that you can support her, follow her in the show notes. One of the biggest takeaways from this conversation and this Venus retrograde is the importance of not only how we show up in our romantic relationships, our interpersonal relationships, friends, work, all of these other things, but also how we show up for community. I almost finished editing this episode on the 3rd, which is when Venus went direct, and I was processing a lot of feelings related to some of the deeper wounds inside of me. Nyx and I had chatted about how hard it is to be a teenager, but not even how hard it is to be a teenager, but how sometimes some of the wounds that we are processing through in our 30s have to do with like being that young adolescent who is angry and confused and really just screaming for like someone who could have been, that role model, that person, that we needed when we were younger. And It's very powerful that Nyx and myself, although maybe sometimes we don't feel that way, we are role models for like younger brujas, brujis, brujex, individuals who are trying to gain power in themselves other than like these institutions that have caused potentially a lot of harm within our families or, country, what have you. It starts with healing yourself. And during this Venus retrograde, I became so aware of how much being in predominantly white spaces, dating predominantly white people, how harmful that's been to me. I feel like when you date people who are white, you have to realize that they navigate sometimes in the world not thinking about their impact on other people, the nuances in their interactions. And it's hard because I try not to take things personally, but I am a person. And this Venus retrograde just like really ripped out my heart and stomped on it and made me realize that like you have grown so much, but you still have so much growing to do. I ended up cyber stalking my first grade crush. And it was interesting because in one of the photos, him and his family are in very like, fuck yeah, America garb. And I know that it's like a sincerity, like USA, USA, and being, proud of your country. It's really difficult because, I am American, I am Mexican, I am both. And there is this constant feeling of inadequacy because growing up, I was one of a couple handfuls of like diverse children. And so there was always this spotlight on being different, right? I spoke a different language. I was culturally different. I always say that I felt like an alien growing up because my parents couldn't really prepare me how to navigate this world that they didn't totally understand in the way that I did, or we're learning together thing, And I had a lot of obstacles to overcome with that. But then on the flip side, I felt a lot of ugliness and ugly feelings associated with like being American and being Mexican and going to Mexico. Nyx talks so positively about how her family is so accepting of her children and how the cousins really make the efforts to not have there be this like cultural divide. And I think that's so beautiful. And I wish I would have had that. I wish that my older cousins would have looked out for me and been there for me in the way that I needed. And, another thing that I realized during the Venus retrograde is like, oh, I mean, I guess I had noticed this a while back, but I kind of like was able to formulate words. And it's like, it's not that I didn't like Mexicans. I didn't like my family. The light bulb went on. It is really wild to realize that, people that you thought should have looked out for you didn't. There's a lot of healing that I need to do from all sides. And I don't know. I feel like the universe gave me this big sign of like, stop letting white men have power over you. I have this big wound of mistrust. And I think that I always expect for people to disappoint me. And I hate, I'm manifesting it probably. I hate that I am always proved right. And it's funny because in the back catalog, there is an episode with Cassandra Aranda, and she kind of read me for filth based on my star chart. And one of the things that she told me is like, my relationships don't work out because I always put people through a ring of fire, and very few make it out the other side. I think to date, one person has made it out the other side. And I realize because I wouldn't put people through tests that I wouldn't expect to be put through as well. And I expect a lot. And, I've come to the realization that I'm just not good at love. I'm glad that there's people like Nyx who are love witches, love brujas. So I have to be okay with just like living my life and having life experiences and hoping that through living my life and talking about my emotions and what I'm going through, that connects with another person. There is a lot of power in verbal medicine, and that is something that I always aim to do with this show. So if you're out there hurting emotionally too because you're clawing at some of the shadow work that you didn't even know you had to do, we're going to come out the other side better. It just really sucks right now. And it's funny, all of this started because when I was still seeing that person, I started creating, it's my second class. I actually taught it through Ritual Craft. And if there's enough interest, I think I'll do it again virtually. It's called How to Be a Y2K Witch. And the biggest takeaway is how to transmute some of that energy from like 97 to 2004. And I get it, Y2K should be 2000, but it's a whole era. Rechanneling and repurposing some of that shame and humiliation and just like toxic sludge that we have accumulated in our lives, figuring out a way to remove it because it really isn't beneficial to us anymore. Right now, I am transmuting all of these feelings into something more positive because I can't just be sad. I mean, I'm letting myself be sad because I need to, but I need to turn it into something more productive. And I know that it'll benefit me. It's going to be okay. I'm going to figure it out. You're going to figure it out. Thank you again for listening to this episode. Please support Nyx. She's amazing. And I'm excited for the space we're going to hold again soon. Okay. Thanks for listening. Bye.